Welcome. Thank you for joining Scout Concepts. Today on this episode, we're going to be speaking about whether you should or should not carry a round in the chamber. So, I'm still relatively new to YouTube and this type of content creating. If you want to follow me on social media, you can find me on Instagram at scout_concepts. Also, if you're new to the channel and have not yet subscribed, please subscribe, click the bell notification so that you can get notified anytime I upload a new video to the channel. Also, please be sure to share my content with family, friends, and other like-minded individuals, as the goal of this channel is to spread as much knowledge and awareness on these topics, as well as answer some questions that people may have relating to the topics that I speak on. Another thing I would like to mention is I'm not sponsored or paid by anybody to do any of these videos. I also haven't been sent any of the products or anything that you may see in my videos. However, I am affiliated with Obsidian Tactics. You can find Obsidian Tactics on Instagram at Obsidian Tactics. You can also message him or email him, as well as go to his website, obsidiantactics.com. And what Obsidian Tactics provides is quality gear at affordable prices for all Americans to be able to have the right things that they need, right tools that they need for their job. Randy, the owner of Obsidian Tactics, is very easy to get a hold of. You can contact him through DM or email. He is more than willing to help you find the right products that you need. And if he doesn't carry it on his website, he can easily source the product and get that product to you very fast. I also like to shout out another YouTube content creator, and that's Armed Atlas with the Costly Conversation podcast. He's an award-winning content creator with his phenomenal podcast featuring instructors, authors, people in politics, you name it. I suggest you go over to his page and subscribe and hit the bell notifications. He has some interesting stuff going on with the Gun Club Radio. So if you like a channel that is well put together and has a lot of great conversations, I suggest you go check him out. And you can also find him on Instagram at Armed Atlas. And lastly, I just want to thank everybody for your support. On with the discussion. Okay, so should you carry your concealed weapon with a round in the chamber or an empty chamber? So I want to start with a little bit of history of carrying without a round in the chamber. So although it didn't start with Israelis necessarily, it was made popular by Israelis with the Israeli carry, or sometimes it's called the Israeli draw, the draw rack present. Either way, it's something that a lot of people identify with IDF or Israeli Defense Force tactics when it comes to carrying without a round in the chamber. In the late 1940s, when the IDF was just getting started, a lot of the weapons, more specifically the handguns that they were carrying, were a variety of surplus handguns from the previous world wars. So because they didn't have a singular handgun weapon system that all the soldiers were using, they standardized the practice of not carrying around in the chamber. That way they could train equally and not have to worry about different manipulations or manual of arms with the different handguns that everybody was carrying. So fast forward to modern times, I believe the IDF still uses this tactic. I'm not sure, I've never been in the IDF. Sometimes you may find other smaller units like Sometimes security teams may have that as their standard operating procedure, where they do not allow their guards to carry with one in the chamber. I've heard that before. Regardless, it is something that a lot of people still recognize and use to this day. So I have some personal thoughts on this method of carry. I'm going to bring up three major problems that I personally have, and I'm sure a lot of other people who train and shoot and carry firearms have with this method of carry as well. So the first problem, in my opinion, is probably the biggest, and I would say maybe the most obvious, and that would be that it is just too slow. When you're faced with a hostile threat, time is at a premium. You do not have time to try to do anything other than get your defensive weapon out and put rounds on target. Now, with that being said, can it be fast? Of course. I've seen a lot of people do it very fast. But to me, if my goal is to get my firearm out and immediately start shooting a hostile threat, then I don't want to take any other steps. I don't care how fast I could probably do it. It is still added time. The second issue that I have with this is you're assuming that you'll have your support hand to be able to manipulate that firearm. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen every time. I'm just saying that there's a huge possibility that one of your hands, whether it be your support hand or your dominant hand, could go down in the event of a shooting. So my third problem is when you are racking the slide in that situation, you're possibly causing an unnecessary stoppage or malfunction. Under stress, your hands could be sweaty, you could already be bloodied, and you could be causing something that totally unnecessary and totally avoidable. Whether it's short stroking the slide, not pulling it all the way back so it picks up the round. Maybe your magazine is faulty and it decides at that moment and wants to try to shoot up more than one round into the chamber. There's a whole lot of things that you could be causing simply by racking the slide. Just from training people, I've seen a lot of people try to rack the slide but also assist it going forward, not allowing the spring tension to put the slide back in the battery. There's just a whole host of things that are totally avoidable if you just did not have to rack the slide and the round was already in the chamber. One thing I will say though, the only time that I make an exception for somebody who decides to carry without a round in the chamber is if you're new to concealed carry and you have a little bit of a fear of carrying a loaded firearm and you just want to get used to having this new item on your person. I get it. Firearms are dangerous. People make mistakes. The only way to overcome that is by training and putting in the reps and the effort so that you can safely carry your firearm. One thing I would suggest though, if you're not going to carry a live round in the chamber, at least load your firearm with a snap cap for the first round. That way you can practice manipulating the slide and seeing how this firearm that you just purchased actually functions. So then I would say graduate to loading the gun with a snap cap and an empty mag, or even if you want a full mag, and then you get to the point where you're carrying with a loaded round in the chamber. So carrying with a round in the chamber. So Masad Ayub, a legendary firearms instructor, said in the Wilson Combat video a while ago, isn't necessary to carry the semi-automatic pistol with a round in the chamber. So his answer to that question right after that was, only if you want to be fully prepared to survive. So for me, I agree with that. And I've always, since the time that I started carrying concealed, I've always carried with a round in the chamber because I knew and understood that principle. However, there are some things that come with that. The first being, do you have the right supporting equipment to carry that firearm. So when I say supporting equipment, I'm talking about things like a good belt, a good holster, and a quality firearm. Trust me, I'm not gonna sit here and act like I didn't have an Uncle Mike's holster before, because I definitely did. And I'm also not gonna allow you to think that I didn't carry that holster on a cheap Walmart belt, because I did. I also had the cheap firearm, but I had to learn and understand the value of carrying this firearm and eventually upgrade to things that were of better quality. One of the newer trends is people doing an off-body carry. An off-body carry is basically they're wearing a man purse or a fanny pack across their waist, or even sometimes they'll have it in a backpack or a gym bag or a go bag, and it will only be in a nylon or Velcro sleeve and not necessarily a holster. Now, the reason why I bring up the holster is because a good quality Kydex holster will be covering that trigger guard, and that will not allow you or any foreign object to be able to reach down in there and manipulate that trigger unintentionally, causing a negligent discharge. So before we go any further, I want to talk about something that I believe is very relevant to this discussion. So condition 4, the chamber is empty, the magazine is unloaded from the firearm, and the hammer is down while the safety is off. Condition 3, the chamber is empty, the magazine is loaded in the firearm, the hammer is down, and the safety is on. Condition 2, a round is now loaded in the chamber, the magazine is in the firearm, and the safety is on. Condition 1, a round is loaded in the chamber, the magazine is loaded in the gun, the safety is on, and the hammer is cocked. And condition 0, a round is in the chamber, the magazine is in the gun, the hammer is cocked, and the safety is off. It's a good thing to get familiar with this stuff, because when you go to a training event, let's say, you may hear this stuff from the instructor on the range. Even outside of training, you should always know the condition of your firearm. So with all that being said, what are my thoughts? Well, me personally, I carry with one in the chamber. This gun is visually and physically inspected. Nothing's in the chamber. This gun is emptied and cleared, just for YouTube video purposes. But I carry a CZ because I know it's safe. If I were to Aaron Cowan this and just drop it, nothing will happen. And that's because this firearm in particular has a couple of really good safety features. For one, these guns come with the option to have either the decocker, or I could switch this lever out and make it a manual safety, meaning I swipe this up, the safety's on, I swipe it down, the safety's off, just like a 1911. Also inside of the slide, there is a plunger safety. So what the plunger safety does is, in the event that it does get Aaron Cowan, the plunger is spring-loaded and it will block the firing pin from going forward and striking the primer on a loaded round inside of the chamber. Most of your modern handguns are going to be set up that way as well, with the exception of those that have a trigger plunger, which is the little blade on the front of the trigger that you have to depress, or like Smith & Wesson's articulating trigger, where you have to put the two hinges together and then pull the whole assembly back in order for it to fire. It's up to you to know your weapon system as best as you can and be able to adequately defend yourself with it, however you choose to do so. Whichever you decide to do, make sure you get some training, be safe, and become the standard.